Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, has a QI value of 40.000000. The purpose of the QI value is to help identify companies that are the most undervalued. Typically, the lower the value, the more undervalued the company tends to be. The QI value ranks companies using 4 ratios. These ratios consist of EBITDA yield, FCF yield, liquidity, and earnings yield. Checking in on some valuation rankings, Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, has a value composite score of 16. Developed by James O'Shaughnessy, the VC score uses 5 valuation ratios. These ratios are price to earnings, price to cash flow, EBITDA to EV, price to book value, and price to sales. The VC is displayed as a number between 1 and 100. In general, a company with a score closer to 0 would be seen as undervalued, and a score closer to 100 would indicate an overvalued company. Adding a 6th ratio, shareholder yield, we can view the value composite 2 score, which is currently sitting at 15. Following volatility data can help measure how much the stock price has fluctuated over the specified time period. Although past volatility action may help project future stock volatility, it may also be vastly different when taking into account other factors that may be driving price action during the measured time period. We can now take a quick look at some historical stock price index data. Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, presently has a 10-month price index of 0.93955. The price index is calculated by dividing the current share price by the share price 10 months ago. A ratio over 1 indicates an increase in share price over the period. A ratio lower than 1 shows that the price has decreased over the time period. Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, has a current ERP5 rank of 2298. The ERP5 rank may assist investors with spotting companies that are undervalued. This ranking uses 4 ratios. These ratios are earnings yield, ROIC, price to book, and 5-year average ROIC. When looking at the ERP5 ranking, it is generally considered the lower the value, the better. Looking at some alternate time periods, the 12-month price index is 1.12612, the 24-month is 1.12845, and the 36-month is 0.99197. Narrowing in a bit closer, the 5-month price index is 1.07937, the 3-month is 1.03817, and the 1-month is currently 0.98764. Watching some historical volatility numbers on shares of Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, we can see that the 12-month volatility is presently 20.090100. The 6-month volatility is 12.462500, and the 3-month is spotted at 9.093100. Key ratios. Turning to some key ratios, Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, second leverage ratio was recently noted as 0.000000. This ratio is calculated by dividing total debt by total assets plus total assets previous year, divided by 2. The leverage of a company is relative to the amount of debt on the balance sheet. This ratio is often viewed as one measure of the financial health of a firm. Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, presently has a current ratio of 3.50. The current ratio, also known as the working capital ratio, is a liquidity ratio that displays the proportion of current assets of a business relative to the current liabilities. The ratio is simply calculated by dividing current liabilities by current assets. The ratio may be used to provide an idea of the ability of a certain company to pay back its liabilities with assets. Typically, the higher the current ratio the better, as the company may be more capable of paying back its obligations. The price-to-book ratio or market-to-book ratio for Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, currently stands at 0.585070. The ratio is calculated by dividing the stock price per share by the book value per share. This ratio is used to determine how the market values the equity. A ratio of under 1 typically indicates that the shares are undervalued. A ratio over 1 indicates that the market is willing to pay more for the shares. There are often many underlying factors that come into play with the price-to-book ratio, so all additional metrics should be considered as well. Ever wonder how investors predict positive share price momentum? The cross-SMA 5200s, also known as the Golden Cross, is the 50-day moving average divided by the 200-day moving average. The SMA 5200s for Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, is currently 1.01864. If the Golden Cross is greater than 1, then the 50-day moving average is above the 200-day moving average, indicating a positive share price momentum. If the Golden Cross is less than 1, then the 50-day moving average is below the 200-day moving average, indicating that the price might drop. C-score, Montier. The C-score is a system developed by James Montier that helps determine whether a company is involved in falsifying their financial statements. The C-score is calculated by a variety of items, including a growing difference in net income versus cash flow, increasing days outstanding, growing days sales of inventory, increasing assets to sales, declines in depreciation, and high total asset growth. The C-score of Fujishoji Co Ltd, JASDAQ 6257, is 4.000000. The score ranges on a scale of -1 to 6. If the score is -1, then there is not enough information to determine the C-score. If the number is at 0, then there is no evidence of fraudulent book cooking, whereas a number of 6 indicates a high likelihood of fraudulent activity. The C-score assists investors in assessing the likelihood of a company cheating in the books.